New York accuses broadband providers of slowing down the internet. Get your Etsy ASAP, and why one geek is still mourning the physical smartphone keyboard. Tech News Tonight is next.
This is Twit.
This is Tech News Tonight, episode 453 for Monday, October 26, 2015. This episode is brought to you by Braintree. Looking to set up payments for your business? Braintree gives your app or website a payment solution that accepts just about every payment method with one simple integration. Plus, Braintree will give you the first $50,000 in transactions fee-free. To learn more, visit braintreepayments.com/technight. Welcome, I am Megan Morrone. Let's get to the tech news. Have you ever suspected that your broadband speed was not quite what it was supposed to be? You're not alone, and now in New York, investigators are doing something about it. New York Attorney General Eric Schneiderman has launched a probe to investigate Verizon, Time Warner, and Cablevision to determine if they're delivering customers the broadband speeds they've been promised. According to Bloomberg, all three cable companies were sent letters asking for copies of all disclosures to customers and copies of any internet speed tests the companies have done. New Yorkers deserve the internet speeds they pay for, Schneiderman said in a statement, but it turns out many of us may be paying for one thing and getting another. Microsoft's Surface Book and Surface Pro 4 are available for purchase today in stores, but if you haven't ordered them already, you might have to wait. If you're considering making the switch from a MacBook to the Surface Book, you can visit Microsoft.com/switch to ease the pain. Apple TV is also available for pre-order. Apple claimed that orders were expected to ship at the end of this week, but we've received some reports that those who ordered the new device, that delivery dates extend into the second week of November. And in other Apple news, the company is facing a class action lawsuit over Wi-Fi Assist. That's the new feature in iOS 9 that's intended to help you find the best network to connect to. So if your Wi-Fi network is wonky, your phone automatically switches to cellular. Right away, people were complaining on Twitter about racking up huge cell phone charges because the feature was turned on by default and they didn't know they weren't using Wi-Fi. Now, a group of users is suing the company. When Wi-Fi Assist is activated, you'll see the cellular data icon in the status bar on your device, but the plaintiffs claim that Apple didn't properly warn them that the feature used data from their cellular plan. The suit was filed in San Jose and alleges over $5 million in damages. Facebook is supercharging the notification screen in another effort to convince you not to bother going anywhere else on the internet except Facebook. According to a post on the Facebook blog, the company is rolling out an expanded personalized notifications tab in the mobile app that will include friends' birthdays and other life events, sports scores, TV reminders based on pages you've liked, upcoming events you've joined, weather updates, movies playing nearby, lists of nearby places to eat, and more. The update will be coming soon to iOS and Android in the U.S. Coming up, Jason Hiner from TechRepublic is here to spill tech's dirtiest secrets. But first, this episode is brought to you by Braintree. Maybe you're working on the next Uber, Airbnb, or GitHub. With just a few lines of code, you're instantly ready to accept Apple Pay, Android Pay, PayPal, Venmo, credit cards, even Bitcoin. It's critical these days in any online business to make payments an easy experience. We talked to Ankur Arya, the general manager for Braintree Mobile, about how the standards for mobile payments have evolved.
One-click, one-touch buying on mobile is now becoming table stakes, right? I always give the example of the average mobile user may have 50 apps on their phone. 10 of those apps have to do with some sort of commerce. 5 or 6 of them work as seamlessly as Uber and Munchery and Airbnb and Lyft. The consumer is going to have that same expectation from kind of all of their buying experiences on that device. And so I think that's kind of the macro trend that we're seeing is seamless buying on a mobile device is becoming sort of the key to converting users and keeping your mobile users happy.
Braintree gives you a full stack payment solution, support for all payment types your customers might want, single integration across all platforms with superior fraud protection, customer service, and fast payouts. To check it out for yourself, visit braintreepayments.com/technight. Technology moves forward at such a crazy fast pace that most of the time we don't even have time to stop and think about what we're sacrificing in the name of progress. Our guest today wrote about 3 great features that companies killed and what we can learn from their loss. Welcome, Jason Hiner from TechRepublic.
Hey, Megan. Pleased to be here,
Well,
as ever.
thanks for coming on. So first, let's talk about the physical keyboard on the smartphone. When it was there until the iPhone, and then it disappeared. Why did they give it up? Why did Apple decide not to put a physical keyboard on the iPhone?
Yeah, so the iPhone was this, especially the first iPhone, was this amazing device that gave you the usability that really none of these devices before could do. That was the one problem it was trying to solve, was that these devices, BlackBerry and Windows Mobile primarily, were great for power users, but they were very, very difficult to learn how to use. You had to dig through menus and all of this. And the way that they figured out how to do this was to get rid of the keyboard, give you this big one piece of glass that had multi-touch gestures, right? Swipes, pinches, all of this kind of thing. And it was so easy. I remember the very first one. I really wasn't quite sure what to think about this thing. I was testing it for about the first week, and I was taking some pictures on it, and I would show. I had a 2-year-old at the time, and I watched her. I set the phone down, and I watched her pick it up, swipe to unlock, tap the Photos app, and then start swiping through pictures. And I went, whoa, like if my 2-year-old can figure out how to use this, then even the CEOs are going to be able to learn how to use it, right? So, because that was the biggest problem. Executives had all these phones, and most of them had no idea how to make a phone call or barely even, reply to an email. So, the iPhone solved that. But in order to do that, it needed that. In order to do that sort of touch kind of thing that was big enough for your finger to act as the primary, pointer and gesture mechanism, it needed more glass. It needed a bigger screen. And in doing that, it lost the thumb keyboard, which so many people that loved BlackBerry and that had, become so proficient on them decried, right? And even to this day, I think people who used to use BlackBerries and Palm Pres the Palm Trios, will tell you that they don't type as many emails or as long of emails as they do, even back then. With the virtual keyboards have gotten a lot better, but it was a big sacrifice. But the trade-off, ideally, ultimately was worth it. It gave us a lot more than it took away with that ability to sort of write longer emails and write more emails.
Right. I mean, I haven't always used an iPhone. That was why for a long time I was like, I need a keyboard. I do a lot of writing. I do a lot of typing. I don't want the on-screen keyboard. It's what kept me away for a long time. And it's like so many those things with Apple, they're just like, you'll come around. And I did. So, so it's something that we don't, I don't know. I mean, it's something I don't miss. I didn't know that really people were sending fewer emails, but maybe, but I guess, maybe that's because of the keyboard or because of something else. We're just writing less and we have more emojis maybe to communicate.
The emoji trade-off. Yeah. No, do you think it's true? Do you write as long emails as you used to when you had that physical keyboard, if you really think about it?
I don't write but I always thought that was just time. But I guess it really, it's, who knows? It's probably both. So offline messages in Gmail was another one that we've lost. I mean, not offline in Gmail, but just the idea that email isn't something that you just use when you're connected to the web. I mean, that was something that existed in the past. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so in Gmail was this amazing thing that when it came out, it was like it was in beta for the longest time, right? In April 2004, it was launched, and the only way you could get in was through if you knew somebody that had an invite. So the most popular person in your whole network was always the person who had, the Gmail invites, if you needed one. But the reason was it did a number of things better. One, it was faster. Loading up email clients used to be so slow, whether it was Mozilla Thunderbird or Outlook Express or Microsoft Outlook. It used to take forever for these things to load, right? Spam was becoming a big problem at the time. And then also storage. Gmail gave you this 1 gig, what was back then, 1 gigabyte of storage, which was about, roughly 500 times what most of the other webmail clients were offering. So you didn't have to worry about deleting messages all the time and your box getting full and not being able to accept more emails. Those were big deals. All of those things were a big deal, but the only way they could do it was by making this a web-based email program. And by doing that, it kind of always had to be connected. It did always have to be connected. Whereas things like, at the time, laptops were really taking off at the same time. And one of the things you could do if you're a business traveler, for example, and you had a laptop, and you would open up your email when you still had a connection, it would download all of your messages. You would get on a plane, for example, or you'd go somewhere that didn't have connectivity, and you could open up your emails, you could type responses, you could even start new emails, even if you weren't connected. And then when you reconnected to the network, all those things got sent automatically, right? It just would automatically sync and send all those messages. Well, Gmail kind of killed that. And so all of a sudden, you're on a plane, you couldn't really, you might be able to look at your emails if that page was still open in a web browser from when you closed it, but you couldn't send emails. You couldn't, start new messages and that kind of thing. You could open up a text pad or something and type them in there and then copy and paste when you got online again. But Gmail really Google was building Gmail for a world that was always connected, where there was going to be, Wi-Fi on planes and Wi-Fi, public Wi-Fi in public places, and really good public Wi-Fi everywhere. We're still not quite there, but we're a lot closer than we were 10 years ago, 11 years ago when Google started this. But that was a big trade-off, and it has been a big trade-off over the past decade for those who are using, Gmail or Google Apps in place of Microsoft Outlook and Exchange, for example.
Right. So in this case, it's like, it's not them saying you'll come around. It's like saying, like, we know the future, and the future is you'll always be online, and you'll never, even on airplanes, you won't ever have to worry about not being online. This won't be an issue.
Yeah. Yep. So, but it was like I said, big trade-off, and that's what kind of the whole theme of this article was that making great products is about those trade-offs and being purposeful, and you can't do everything. And sometimes you have to get rid of things that you really like and are really important, and in some ways maybe part of the secret sauce of a product. But in order to move forward, sometimes you have to make tough choices, and that's what great products do.
Well, I won't give away the rest of them, but you did have an additional product that just came out that didn't make it into the article. Tell us about the Nexus 5X and what it sacrificed.
Yeah, so the Nexus 5X is a really interesting little phone. Here's a little, there it is, and it comes in this case that they made special for it, which is really nice actually. It's very very easy to hold in your hand. I like it a lot. Protects it real well. But the Nexus 5X is a 5-inch. Sorry, I'm trying to get it up there again. The Nexus 5X is a 5-inch phone. Does a lot of cool things. Has a fingerprint scanner on the back. That's what the little circle is in the middle of it, underneath the camera. And it's fast. Has a great processor. Nice camera. But it does lose a few things that the previous Nexus doesn't have. It's also another part of its secret sauce is that it's $399. Has a great price point. So the Nexus 5, which was 2 years ago, and the Nexus 4 even had wireless charging built in. Google was out front on this with wireless charging. But with this model, it has actually dropped wireless charging from the device, which kind of shocks some people because Google was a leader in pushing wireless charging. So why all of a sudden has it dropped wireless charging? Well, the big reason is that it sort of went for fast charging instead. You can sort of see on this device, it has a connection there. That's a USB-C connector. And that device it's a data and charging port that is much, much faster. You can charge your phone in about an hour to 2 hours, hour and a half. It can give you a lot of charge in about 15 minutes. Even a phone that's completely dead, it can give you a lot of charge in about 15 minutes, almost like half or more of your power. So it's a great connector. It allows the phone to be charged much quicker. And their trade-off was most people will probably take charging fast as opposed to charging wirelessly. And at some point they'll bring in wireless fast wireless charging. That's something that Samsung has already introduced with its two latest phones, the Galaxy Note 5 and then the Galaxy Edge Plus. So that fast charging is possible. But Google also said that one of the reasons they did it is because that extra mechanism in there for wireless charging makes the phone thicker, and they wanted a nice, thin, inexpensive phone. And so getting rid of it makes sense. So that's just another smaller example of some of the trade-offs that you have to make. And whatever kind of business you're in, if you are making products, it's really important to not be afraid to kill something that may have a lot of value, that may be something that you held up as one of your most important features. And those are hard decisions to make, but those are the decisions that great products make. And you're not going to make everybody happy. There are going to be a lot of people many times that are unhappy about some of those choices. But you have to make that calculus of when are you what is the greater good essentially in designing a product.
Well, a lot of times it takes a while for people to get used to them too. I mean, sometimes the companies that are out front, like Windows 8, for example, when that came out, everybody's going to have a hybrid. Everything's going to be a hybrid. You're going to use a tablet the same way you use a laptop. You're going to want to touch your screen of your laptop. And everybody, when Windows 8 came out, said, no, we don't want that at all. And, but now, now that's Windows 10. It is what it is. It just took a while for us to get used to, maybe for the technology to catch up. Even though you make these choices, it takes a while. It's funny you bring up Samsung, and they did kind of the same thing with the S5. I had the Samsung S5, and it was totally waterproof. Yeah. That was the thing. It's like, it's completely waterproof. And then the S6 was not. They just decided not to do that. And meanwhile, the iPhone 6s is pretty waterproof. I mean, if you go inside, but that's not even a feature that they tout. They don't say that.
Yeah, it's like a quiet feature, isn't it? It's interesting.
Yeah.
It's this product thing is hard. One of our jobs as technology journalists and analysts and commentators is to hold the company's feet to the fire and to be critical and to stand on the side of users and advocate on their behalf. And so, a lot of times we are quite critical, but it is important to remember, that it is a tough job. Making great products is really hard, and making these choices is really hard. And, sometimes you're gonna make the wrong choice. And, hopefully you have the next generation to fix it and listen to feedback. And make bets, but you do have to essentially, and sometimes it's go with your gut. Sometimes it's, listen to user feedback. Often it's a combination of those two. Sometimes it's making strategic bets, but it's hard stuff. But that's kind of what makes tech fun, right? It's so fast. The product development cycles are so short, and there's just lots of interesting things, lots of competition, and lots of different kinds of tries at these things. And so that's what makes it fun and interesting and really exciting to cover.
Well, it is interesting and fun and exciting to cover, and you do it so well. You're the editor-in-chief at TechRepublic and also one of the co-authors of Follow the Geeks. You've covered so many fascinating, interesting geeks and their history and gone deep into their past and interviewed everyone they knew. The last chapter was, of course, Leo Laporte. It was excellent.
Yeah. Thank you.
And so you have another chapter coming out soon, and you were going to tell us who it's going to be in it, right?
If only. Chapter 10 will be announced this week, and Chapter 10 will be released very soon. That is the final chapter. So also, as we're releasing Chapter 10, we're also finalizing the whole book, which will be released later this year, at the end of the year. So we're very excited. Leo was, of course, a lot of fun to talk to. He has an amazing story and has had a great history of advocating for users, and trying to serve the audience, help people, have more fun with their technology, use it better, and make good choices with their tech. And so he was it was such an honor to be able to cover to Leo, and we had a lot of fun with it too.
And so people can read the chapter on Leo right up until the next chapter comes out, correct?
Yes, this week. If you want to read the chapter on Leo Laporte for free online, read it this week. You can also, if you pre-order the book, you have access to the archive, the online archive of all the chapters that we've released so far. So if you pre-order any of the 4 versions of the book, the audiobook, the ebook, the hardback, or the paperback, then you also do get access to all of them before it's finalized and we put out the final version. The final version will have comments too from all of our readers. So if readers have comments on any of the chapters, if they've read them and like to have a chance to have their voice included in the book, we are going to include at the end of each chapter the best comments on sort of the best insights on each of these the folks and what their their importance has been, their role, the interesting things that they have done.
Well, Jason, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to have your perspective on the show. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Megan. See you soon.
Take care. And finally, tonight, we've all been there. You need a hand-crocheted Princess Leia hat, and you need it fast. Where do you turn? Today, handmade marketplace Etsy has your answer. It's called Etsy ASAP. It's a pilot program in New York City that allows you to pay $20 for same or next day delivery from participating sellers in New York City. That's a $20 subscription fee. Etsy is working with Postmates, the already popular service that enables anyone to get any local product delivered in under an hour. The homemade crafts market always heats up around the holidays, but this program is clearly a response to Amazon's recent Etsy competitor, Handmade at Amazon. And that is it for this edition of Tech News Tonight. We're on Facebook. You can like us to get links to the show when it's posted and the stories we talk about. And if you want to be part of the conversation, post a comment on the stories that we post. You can also subscribe to the show at twit.tv/TN2. You can write to us at TN2@twit.tv. You can watch live every weekday at 4 p.m. Pacific. And don't miss our morning news program, Tech News Today, every weekday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. I'm Megan Morrone. Thanks for watching.
Bandwidth for Tech News Tonight is brought to you by CashFly.com.